أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Inshallah, today we're doing the follow-up of last week's lesson. And basically last week we're looking at the importance of knowing yourself. And we said part of knowing oneself is to understand, according to Imam Ghazali, that the body is made up of two parts, the body and the spiritual heart. And in order to gain closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must learn to recognize the existence of the spiritual heart. So last week we discovered the brain, or discussed the brain rather, and its patterns and how it has an effect on the biology of the body. And today we're going to try and bring a coherent understanding of the brain, the heart, the soul, and how all of it fits in. Because when you look at modern science, they believe that the mind or consciousness is in the brain. It's an emergent quality of the brain. And you have some more advanced Western scientists that are now starting to factor the heart in. But from the Islamic understanding, we know that the soul is the seat of the intellect. So inshallah, today we're going to try and explain away all the discrepancies or misunderstandings between these concepts. So what's becoming apparent is that denying the existence of the soul is becoming increasingly difficult as science points more and more to the existence of the soul, the spirit, or what they refer to as consciousness. So we're just going to watch this video, and in it basically we're going to see how even the cells in the body are connected to some self, or some sort of self, or some sort of consciousness. And consciousness is basically who we are. The self that's unique to each person is basically who we are.
So that's why I picked two identical cells, because here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the color from the slide of everything that is the same, with the intention of leaving where two cells differ from each other in regard to identity. I know the nuclei aren't the same, but let's ignore the nuclei. Let's say we did enucleation, so we don't have the nuclei in there. I say, where do two people differ from each other? And push the button. Lo and behold, where's the color? It's in the outer surface. And I say, what is that thing in the outer surface? I say, those are the receptors. Those are the antennas. I say, what do you mean antennas, receptors? What are they? I say, in medicine, we refer to a large number of these as self-receptors, receivers of self. I go, wow, that's really interesting. Well, what does medical science do with these things? I said, if I want to transplant an organ from person A into person B, I really want to make sure I can get as many of the self-receptors to match. That's what they do with tissue matching or organ matching, to make sure that they give a recipient an organ that is closest to their identity. Well, that's nice, and that's what they do with it, mechanical stuff. I had a whole different thing. Blew my mind. What blew my mind was this. Well, we see the antennas, we say that's the difference between self. I say, no, you fail to see the point. They're antennas. They receive a signal. Where do you think the signal is coming from that they're reading? Just quick note, they're on the outside of the cell. They're reading an environmental signal that you receive on your receptors that the person sitting next to you does not receive because they have a different set of receptors. Each one of us has different receptors. I could go to Margaret's cell, take her receptors off, transfer them to my cell, and guess what? It's Margaret's cell now. And even though it was my cell, if I put it back in my body, my system would say, not self, it belongs to somebody else. I transfer ownership by transferring the antennas. You still haven't got it, because I'm going to try and tell you what it's all about in this picture. There's a show. I say, we turn on the TV, and I say, there's an image on TV. I say, where the heck did that image come from? You say, oh, came from the television. I say, no, did that image come from the television? No. Oh, it was from the antenna. I say, well, it's picked up by the antenna, but the show is not from the antenna. Where's the show come from? Oh, the signal that is received by the antenna. So the show that's on the television isn't in the television. The show is received from the environmental broadcast, the signal. And I go, very interesting point. I go like this. We're watching the TV. The picture tube breaks. I say, hey, the television's dead. And we all go, yeah, television's dead. It's not responding. It's not doing anything. It's dead. And then I ask this big question. The television died. Did the broadcast die? The answer is no. Broadcast's still there. You say, how do you know? I say, you get another TV, you plug it in, you turn it on, and tune it to the station, and voila, you're back online again. The show is the broadcast. And all of a sudden I started to realize, oh my God, I just saw something that blew my mind. And what was that? I'm not in here. I am a broadcast. I play through this television set. Because at that moment when I recognized I exist as a spirit and I exist as a body, and all of a sudden my questioning mind said, why have a spirit and a body? Why not just be a spirit? And the answers welled up from my cells. And that was the first time I knew I had Jewish cells. I asked a question and the answer came back in the form of a question. I said, why have a spirit and a body? And the cells said to me, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? Think about that. Think about that. What's the relevance? If you're just a spirit, what does a sunset look like? If you're just a spirit, what does being in love feel like? There are no answers to that for a simple reason. All those sensations are derived from the cells of your body that take the information of this world, convert it into your nervous system, and send it off as a broadcast back to your spirit. You come in to this body to have experience.
And when we look at this verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ثُمَّ سَوَّاهُ, and then we fashioned him, وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ, and then we blew into him his soul. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ, and we made his ears, وَالْأَبْصَارَ, and his eyes, وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ, and his heart. قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ, little do you give thanks. So even in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making a distinction between the soul and between the physical heart. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, He says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, do they not contemplate on the Quran? أم على قلوب أقفالها, or do they have locks on their hearts? And what we're understanding from here is that contemplation and the intellect is rooted into the heart according to the Quran. So what we're going to look at now, last week we looked at the brain and its reference patterns and how it controlled behavior and linked up with the nervous system. And today we're going to look at the spiritual heart operates on patterns just like the brain. So thus the secret to success and well-being of the body and the soul, just like with the brain, lies in one's reference patterns. And again, like we did last week, we're first going to look at a traditional perspective to just see that the classical understanding confirms what we're saying.
Know that character is different from action. A character trait is a set condition of the soul, while an action is simply an intentional movement of the body. A stingy person may give money on occasion, but that does not make them generous. Generosity is a character trait when giving money is pleasurable. Just as the body has distinct organs and parts, the soul has distinct attributes: the rational, predatory, and bestial attributes. Beautiful character occurs when the soul's attributes are balanced. The rational attribute is the ability to reason, for example, distinguishing truth from falsehood. When deficient, it leads to stupidity, and when excessive, to swindling and fraud. The predatory attribute is the quality of anger. When deficient, it leads to cowardice, and when excessive, to recklessness. The bestial attribute is that of appetite and desire. When deficient, it leads to indifference, and when excessive, to gluttony. When the attributes are balanced, the rational leads to wisdom, the predatory to courage, and the bestial to restraint. Finally, when the predatory and bestial attributes are set under the command of the intellect, it leads to the fourth virtue, justice. It is easier for the soul to rest in the extremes of the various attributes, either in deficiency or in excess. However, the middle path, while more difficult, is the necessary path for good character. The soul falls sick when its attributes are out of balance, and as a result, the heart becomes incapable of loving God. The heart can be treated by means of spiritual struggle. The medicine for ugly character is to force the soul to perform actions that directly counter the flawed character trait. For example, a stingy person should oblige himself to give continuously until it becomes easy to do so. Stinginess is cured when it is more pleasurable for one to give money than to keep it. The path to a disciplined soul starts with aspiring, the desire to come to the truth through inner struggle. One must struggle to keep the soul under the command of the intellect. The only way to discipline the soul is by denying destructive pleasures through renouncing one's desires. These desires create barriers between the person and truth. Wealth, lifted by ridding oneself of the unnecessary. Prestige, lifted by distancing oneself from it. Conformism, lifted by renouncing one's blind imitations. And sin, lifted by repentance and avoiding previous mistakes. Once these barriers are lifted, one needs to build a fortress around themselves to maintain a just equilibrium among the attributes of the soul.
Okay, so basically what we're seeing now from Imam Ghazali is that the soul has patterns, just like the brain. And they can be deviant patterns, or incoherent patterns, or they can be coherent patterns. And the way to regulate our patterns or adjust our patterns, as we discussed in the last lesson, is by inner struggle. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. For those who make an effort to find our paths, لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Indeed, we will guide them to our ways. And then Allah is giving us a hint to what is the path that leads to His ways. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And Allah is with the people of ihsan. So we should now identify what is the patterns that we're functioning on. And this obviously is done by becoming more aware of all our thoughts, our speech, and our actions. And when we discover what our shortcomings are, we should work on those conditions and try and implement the opposite. So when we see anything, for example, you're bad-tempered, you work to calm yourself and rid yourself of the anger. And what we should remember is that the middle path is the difficult path. It's the path where we constantly moving, shifting left to right in order to find the right balance, because the soul basically becomes comfortable in excess in actions of obedience and disobedience. We must understand that. Is that sometimes even if we're in obedience and then we can overdo it. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us through the sunnah to maybe read something 5 times, then the sunnah or the soul rather will want us to read it 5,000 times. We start working on quantity instead of quality. And vice versa, we also tend to excess in matters of disobedience. And this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ says, قَارِبُوا وَسَدِّدُوا. Be moderate and stick to moderation. فَإِنَّهُ لَيْسَ أَحَدٌ مِّنْكُمْ بِمُنْجِيهِ عَمَلُهُ. Because none of you will be saved by his deeds. قَالُوا وَلَا أَنْتَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. And so the Sahaba said, not even you, Ya Rasulullah. قَالْ وَلَا أَنَا إِلَّا أَنْ يَتَغَمَّدَنِيَ اللَّهُ بِرَحْمَةٍ مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلٍ. Not even me, except if Allah encompasses me or showers His mercy and His blessings upon me. So in our path, we have to start becoming aware of our emotions and also of our instincts, and then work to curb them. Like we said last week, the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-kayyisu man dana nafsahu. The intelligent man is the one that controls his nafs. وَعَمِلَ لِمَا بَعْدَ الْمَوْتِ. And then he does those actions which will benefit him or her after death. And then we must continue with the ihsan until that becomes part of our pattern. And when it becomes part of our pattern, then it becomes pleasurable for us to do that. Then the struggle ends. And once we reach that, then we like in a fort, safeguarded from all the harms on the outside. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha, O you who believe, be conscious of Allah, wabtaghu ilayhi alwasila, and seek a means of getting close to Allah. Wajahidu fi sabilihi, and strive in His path, la'allakum tuflihun, in order that we may be successful. Now what we're going to do is discuss something called the quantum field. If we are making this assumption that the soul and the heart and the brain are basically all part of one system and somehow connected, we need to discuss or investigate what's the underlying mechanism whereby which all of them are connected and whereby they can function as one unit. And what we're going to look at is something called the quantum field. About in 1887, basically there was discussion in the world whether there's a thing called an ether, meaning a force of energy in the universe that links electromagnetic energy. And James Maxwell, the man that developed the electromagnetic light of theory, he said, well, there's a thing called ether because electromagnetism needs to travel through a medium. And there was 2 scientists, Michelson and Morley, they did an experiment in 1887. They had no result, but they used that as a proof to say that there's no ether, there's no field that's connecting everything. But with the discovery of quantum physics and the advancement 100 years later, it was becoming impossible to explain phenomena without bringing the understanding of a field into the equation. And so now with modern understanding, we're going to see that this field exists, it's been measured, and science is still starting to come to terms with the existence of this field.
I talked to you about how space is actually not empty, and that it's full of energy, and that the energy in space is not trivial. There's a lot of it. And we can actually calculate how much energy there is in that space, and that reality might actually come out of it, that everything we see is actually emerging from that space. Can we measure this stuff? We can. The Casimir effect has been demonstrated now. We can show that the vacuum density in laboratory is really there, that plates can be pushed together by using the vacuum. And in fact, we are now able, with the dynamical Casimir effect, to extract photons directly out of the vacuum. We're able to extract energy directly out of what we thought of as empty. So it's really, really there. A proton, and I start to count how many of these little Plancks are inside the volume of that proton, and I found that it was the exact mass of the universe. That is, there's enough information in terms of Planck inside a teeny proton for all the other protons to be expressed in one of them. A truly holographic world in which the proton is entangled with all the other protons. The whole thing is talking. And we know in laboratories that particles can be entangled, that you can move this particle over here and it changes the particle on the other side of the universe. So it wasn't that outrageous to think. And so I was like blown away. Think about this. Think about all the protons that makes up your body. You know, some of the masters said that look within and you will have all the information. Maybe they meant it. Right? So that's why you've seen, like, maybe the magazine covers, you know, talking about the proton, teeny particle, big problem. The Hubble proton is nothing like we expected. No kidding. If I'm correct, it's like completely different, right? And, you know, the problem with the proton, could scientists be seeing signs of a whole new realm of physics? Maybe. And these physics may have to do with this vacuum energy that produces our reality.
Okay, so let me just explain that to you. I mean, basically what he's saying is that there is no such a thing as empty space. Even as we're sitting here in this room, there's energy that's surrounding all of us. Energy that's waiting to transport our thoughts, our speech, and our actions into some form of reality. And scientists, when they looked at space, they said space is empty. And now they're finding out that space is full of energy. And this is now a modern picture from the Hubble telescope of what they once called empty space. Just to give you I mean, those are all galaxies and stars and clusters and things you're looking at. This is the night sky if you look at it from one of those deep space telescopes. We can't see it with the eye, but this is the energy that exists in empty space. So this is just an example. Let's look at this picture. If you look at the picture on your right-hand side, that's an image from one of NASA's satellites of the universe. Now when they look at the image of the universe, it's filled with energy. Okay? And when you look at the picture on the left, that's an image of the electromagnetic energy in the brain. And if you look at it, it almost looks exactly the same. The electromagnetic energy in the brain is almost a replica of the electromagnetic energy in the universe. And this is why you heard him say that everything is holographic. That when you look at everything in the universe, each thing is a smaller representation of the bigger thing. So when you look at the human being, if you look at the human cell and you look at its proportion to the human being, there's a direct relationship. If you look at the proton, to compare to the atom, everything is related to each other. And they're saying that the human being is also linked and related to the entire universe. But that's a topic for another day, inshallah. These three experiments are going to clearly explain to us and give us the understanding whereby which the body, the heart, and the soul are connected to each other. The first one is on entanglement, and that's just for people that haven't attended the lecture on entanglement. Inshallah, this will make things a little clearer.
The first experiment, number 1, was performed in Geneva, Switzerland, University of Geneva, July 25th, 1997. It was reported to over 3,400 journalists, educators, scientists, engineers in more than 40 countries. Very, very famous experiment. What did they do? They took a particle of light, a photon, one photon, and they wanted 2 identical photons. So they took one particle and cut it into 2. So now you have photon 1, photon 2. They put them into a special machine that could take the photons and separate them by 14 miles. 7 miles in one direction, 7 miles in the other direction. And once they were separate, they could begin the experiments. So here are the 2 photons. We're going to shoot them 14 miles apart. Here they go. Boom. Okay, now this particle is 14 miles from this particle. And what they found is this. Whatever they do to one particle here, the other particle acts like it is still connected even though it's 14 miles apart. The particle acts like it's still connected even though it's 14 miles apart. And the question that they're asking is why? If you take 2 particles and you separate them, why do they act like they are still connected? This is important for you and for me, because the phenomenon, it's called entanglement.
Okay, now basically entanglement, just for those that didn't attend the lecture, could be an explanation. First of all, it's saying that 2 particles that come from a common source always remain connected to each other instantly. It means faster than the speed of light. And scientists don't understand how, but this is a reality. And this should give us an understanding of dua. How the Prophet ﷺ said that dua, if you make dua for your absent brother, it's accepted without a doubt. This will explain to us how we connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah knows everything that's happening with us, and how other things like black magic and things work in the world.
Vladimir Paponian took a glass tube. He removed all of the air from inside the tube, creating what we call a vacuum. Because what is in the tube are photons, little particles of light. Photons are in that tube. And the scientists measured them to see where the photons are. They found when they measured them that they were completely random. That the photons were everywhere, random. No surprise. Everything is good. Now, look at what they did. They took some human DNA and they put human DNA into the photons. In conventional science, there is nothing that allows for the effect. In conventional science, we were taught to believe that there is no effect. But that's not what these experiments show. Watch this. They put human DNA in with the photons, and the photons aligned themselves with the DNA. The photons were physically changed in their arrangement. The photons moved in the presence of the DNA. The stuff our world is made of changed in the presence of the stuff our bodies are made of. This is a powerful experiment. It's the first time it's been shown in the laboratory that your body is changing your world. Then they said, what happens if we take the DNA out? What happens to the photons? Well, what happened, they were not prepared for. Because when they took the photons out, when they took the DNA out, the photons acted like the DNA was still there. As if they were still connected. As if they were still connected. The Question is why? There's nothing that explains this in traditional science, but in the new science, there is. This is called the DNA phantom effect. If you would like to Google this on your computer, you can research this for yourself.
Okay, just for people that don't know what photons are, whoever's attended the lectures are familiar with these terms. But basically, photons are what gives the atom its energy. So we know atoms form everything in matter. And what they're seeing here is that the DNA, that means something from inside of your body, is having an effect on the things that would make up the foam, for example, or water. The particles that make up everything around us are affected by the human DNA. Now we're going to look at the third video, and this is how the DNA is affected by emotions. In other words, how the soul affects the DNA. So remember, what we looked at here now is how the DNA affects matter, how it affects the photons. And in the first video, we saw how things are connected. And in this video, we're going to be looking at how the soul or emotions affect the DNA. And then it's starting to give us a clearer picture of how everything comes together.
This is a paper released in 1993 by an organization called the Institute of Heart Math, H-E-A-R-T-M-A-T-H, Heart Math. We'll talk about them later today. But what they showed is this. Heart Math showed around every human heart there is a field of energy that we can measure. It looks like this. It's between 5 feet and 8 feet in diameter. The question that they asked was, what effect does our heart have on the DNA of our bodies? And here's the experiment. What they found was in the presence of positive emotions, gratitude, appreciation, love, compassion, all the things that you would expect as positive emotions, look at the DNA, it relaxed in a positive, life-affirming way. In the presence of anger, jealousy, hate, rage, frustration, the DNA was tight like a little top. And all that the people did was have a feeling. They had a feeling and they changed the DNA in their body.
Okay, so we just explained that entanglement is a connection between particles. The next important thing to understand is that the vacuum around us is not empty, but contains energy waiting to interact with our thoughts, our speech, and our action. And the DNA has an effect on matter, or rather on the subatomic world. Now, what are the implications of this? The first thing is, last week we discussed how your facial expressions, how tone of voice and speech affect the cells in the body. And now we're beginning to get the mechanism that because the DNA can affect with the particles of light or the energy around us, this gives us an idea of how our facial expressions can affect people around us, the tone of voice, the speech, the actions. They have an effect on this field, on the quantum field, and via the field, these movements of energy have effects on people around us. But what is most important that I thought we should take from this experiment, apart from its implications to the soul, is that how even written and electronic texts can carry information of our emotions and intentions. Let's say you're picking up your phone and I'm typing a message. Well, first of all, the message is coming from my emotions. And the cell phone is working with what? It's working with light, with energy, with photons. And we've seen that the DNA affects the photons. So, I mean, literally you're looking at the mechanism whereby we can program our emotions into the message that we're sending even over WhatsApp. And this is very important because many of us know when you sometimes pick up a message, you can sense the mood of the person that sent it. And many of us use the messaging service to bypass face-to-face interaction. We think it's easy and hide behind these text messages. But what we're beginning to find is that everything is connected and there's no way to hide behind anything. Everything is being transmitted into the field. So the fact that the photons retain their shape even after the DNA is removed, well, that can explain very many things in the Sunnah. First of all, it can explain how places store frequency. We know as Muslims that if we pass by a place where Allah's punishment descended, we should hasten. Like when we get to Mash'ar al-Haram in Muzdalifah, we have to hasten that short distance because that's where Allah destroyed the people of the elephant. We know from a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was traveling with the Sahaba one day and they came to a place where Allah destroyed the people there. And the Sahaba used the water from that place to mix their dough, and the Prophet ﷺ said, you need to throw that dough away, you cannot eat it. So places we visit, they have an effect on us because places retain information. The people that were there, if those were evil people, they are leaving their traces behind in those places. Also, we can now understand how clothing, we can be dressed in the Sunnah garb, for example. You can have on your thawb, you can have on your abaya, and you're not speaking the way you should be speaking and behaving the way you should be behaving. Those photons inside of your clothing can be storing your information. So you can have one look on the outside and a different reality on the inside. And this is another mechanism of Bismillah, for example. We know that the Prophet ﷺ says the believer eats with one intestine and the disbeliever with 7. And so now we can understand that literally this is the mechanism whereby your articulation can have an effect on the molecular structure of your food. And in this way, we can be influenced and influence everything we come into contact with. So what we should learn is that there's no way to subvert the system. There's no way to cheat the system. The only things that we can be fooled by are our patterns. Because as we said last week, is that man is only conscious of 5% that's happening around him. 95% is happening in the subconscious. And if we don't become aware of our patterns, then we will be continuing to do these actions that are biologically and electromagnetically harmful for us. So really the only solution to bring good health, physically and spiritually, is to bring this concept of ihsan into our lives. And look at this verse. This is a verse revealed about the hypocrites, because the hypocrites have the change. They have the signs of Islam on the outside, but they don't have it on the inside. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهُ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. They seek to deceive Allah and the believers. وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ. And they don't deceive anyone except themselves. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ. And they don't even know that they're deceiving themselves. And why is that? Allah says, فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ. In their hearts is a disease. فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا. And Allah increases their disease. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْذِبُونَ. And for them is a severe punishment because they denied the signs of Allah. And so when our external doesn't match our internal, this is something that is disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now that we understand this mechanism and we want to put things into perspective, and we see that the soul has its reference patterns, and the soul is linked through the heart, which is the interface between the soul and the brain. But the soul has its patterns, the brain has its patterns. But because they're entangled, they function as one system. The brain is detecting what's happening on the outside, touch and taste and smell, and it's updating the soul immediately. And the soul is got its knowledge, it's receiving light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mercy, and it's updating the whole system simultaneously. So what we have to understand from this also is that if the patterns of the soul are unstable, if the patterns of the soul are incoherent, but your pattern on the outside, your physical pattern, is giving the signs of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because this is one system, it's still incoherent. You cannot fool Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by only making the change on the outside. If we want to make a change, because everything is connected and functioning as one pattern, the soul and its patterns must match the brain and its patterns. And this is the sign of Iman. When you have a mismatch, that is a sign of hypocrisy. So in our understanding, when we look at the world as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's your soul, then there's the physical heart, then there's the brain, the body, and then the field. These are all the things that we need to keep in the back of our minds, and what is important and affects our world. Is what affects our dunya and affects our akhirah. So let's just unpack it, inshallah, in a diagram. That there's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah is the source of mercy, and Allah is the source of light. Allah says, وَمَن يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُورٍ. For the one Allah doesn't make light, you cannot find any light. Allah says about ihsan, مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّنْ حَسَنَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. Anything that afflicts you of ihsan, it's only coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the soul, the nafs, is the recipient of this mercy and light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the soul has basically two states, light and darkness. This is the two currencies, light and darkness. Or we would say ihsan, beauty, and sayyi'ah, ugly. This is the only two things that your soul collects, either light or darkness. And the Prophet ﷺ said, if you do good deeds, the result is light in your soul. And if you do bad deeds, there's a black spot on your soul. And so when the heart or the spiritual heart sends down either light or darkness to the physical heart, then the physical heart generates either a pattern of coherence or incoherence. Okay? And then this is the signaling that's going down to the brain. And then the brain in turn will produce good chemistry or bad chemistry, depending on that. And then send this down to the body. And then the body is releasing either good frequency or bad frequency. Like we said, the DNA having an effect on the subatomic particles. And then your body now is interacting with the field, with the quantum field. And you either emit into this field light or darkness. And this is, in the Sunnah, dhulm and nur, light and darkness. And so if you emit light, then what happens is your field returns there to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we receive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And if we emitting negativity or darkness, that's the darkness that's sent back to the soul. We lose the contact with the light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, in a nutshell, is our understanding of how spirituality works. Now, what I just included here, for people that have an understanding of the soul but no connection with Allah, you can see that gray line there is what's cutting off from divine light and divine mercy. They have no access to the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for people that don't even have the understanding of the soul, of the nafs, and they just stop at the heart, they one level lower. They one sphere away from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For people that don't even have the understanding of the heart, they're another level further. For people that don't even, or not even concerned with their brain patterns, they're only concerned with the body, you can see how they distance themselves from the light and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, in other words, if we become conscious of this concept of light, and that our beliefs and our patterns and actions affect everyone around us, then we will become more conscious of the way we interact with everyone around us. And now we're going to come to the three states of the soul. From the Quran, we know that Allah says, Inna nafsa ammaratun bisu, that one of the states of the nafs is nafsul ammara bisu. This is the soul that encourages to evil naturally. That means this is your pattern. Your normal pattern is a pattern of deviance. And then there's the nafsul lawama, it's the nafs that is struggling with itself. And the third one, as you see in the picture, like Imam Ghazali said, the one that's safe, is the nafsul mutma'inna. And these are basically three states of the soul. So we can be in one of these three states. And so Ibn al-Qayyim, he says the nafs is a single entity, although its state may change from nafs al-ammara to nafs al-lawwama to nafs al-mutma'inna, and this is the aim, or the final aim of perfection. And this is how our patterns of our souls fluctuate. Now, when we look at the nafs al-ammara bisu, the first thing to understand is that the nafs is overtaken by the desires of this world. In fact, all souls have evil hidden in them naturally. The soul encourages to evil naturally. We're going to look at the verse from the Quran just after this. And if it was not for the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, none of us would be able to escape the evil of our souls. Imam Baghawi states that the nafs al-ammara bisu has shaitan as its ally. He promises great rewards and gains, but casts falsehood into it. He invites it and entices the soul to do evil. He leads it on with hope after hope and presents falsehood to the soul in a form that will accept and admire. Now, this is very important, because what it means is that if you are a person, even in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan is going to come mislead you with something of the deen. He's not going to say, come to the casino. If shaitan knows you someone that's praying 5 times a day and you perceive yourself as a religious person, he's not going to take you from this extreme to that extreme. He's going to try to rob you of your deed by trying to make you maybe have bad opinion of others, or to start gossiping, or to get involved in a riba, for example. These are the things which will steal your light away from you. If you want deviance, then he's going to tempt you with the dunya. Like he says, وَلَا أُمَنِّيَنَّهُمْ, we're going to incite their passions inside them. And this is a beautiful verse of the Quran. This is the word of Yusuf alayhi salam. When the wife of the Aziz, Zulaykha, when she accused Yusuf alayhi salam of trying to seduce her, and it was found that she was actually the guilty party, so Yusuf alayhi salam, this is what he said, وَمَا أُبَرِئُ نَفْسِي, I don't claim any innocence for myself. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ, because the nafs, it encourages naturally to evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي, except the one who my Lord has mercy on. إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. That means what Yusuf alayhi salam is saying, that we cannot be safe from the evil in our souls except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us His protection. And here's a beautiful verse that confirms what we're saying. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattabi'u khutuwati shaitan. Oh, you believe, don't follow the footsteps of the shaitan. وَمَن يَتَّبِعَ خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, whoever follows the footsteps of the shaitan, فَإِنَّهُ يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ, that the shaitan, he commands to obscenity and evil. And look what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. He says, وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ. And if it wasn't the favor of Allah and His mercy, just listen to the emphatic nature of this part of the verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا زَكَى مِنْكُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَبَدًا. He says, not a single one of you ever could have purified themselves. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهُ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. But Allah purifies who He wants to purify. وَاللَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. And Allah is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. This means any one of us, any opportunity, every privilege we've been afforded to be in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a gift from Allah to us. It is not some form of accomplishment that we have afforded ourselves. Because in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, لَن يُدْخِلَ أَحَدًا عَمَلَهُ الْجَنَّةِ. None of you, your actions will enter you into Jannah. Again, the Sahaba said, قَالُوا وَلَا أَنْتَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Not even you, Ya Rasulullah. قَالْ لَا وَلَا أَنَا. Even me, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the greatest man to walk the face of the earth, he said, even I can't enter paradise except through the mercy of Allah. إِلَّا أَنْ يَتَغَمَّدَنِي اللَّهُ بِفَضْلٍ وَرَحْمَةٍ. Except if Allah showers or favors me with His blessings and His mercy. Then the next nafs is the nafs al-lawwama, the one that is trying to find balance. And Hassan al-Basri says, you always see the believer blaming himself and saying things like, did I want this? Why did I do that? Was this better than that? Should I have done this? This is a sign of Iman, when we're trying to take ourselves to account. And the third form of the nafs is the nafs al-mutma'inna. It's the tranquil and believing soul, according to Ibn Abbas. And according to Qatada, it is the soul of the believer made calm by what Allah has promised. And Imam Baghawi says, the nafsul mutma'inna, Allah gives it an angel to assist it. And in one of the verses of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa aminu bi rasuli. O you believe, you have the taqwa of Allah and believe in His messenger. Yu'tikum kiflayni min rahmatihi. He'll give you a double portion of His mercy. وَيَجْعَلْ لَكُمْ نُورًا تَمْشُونَ بِهِ. And He'll give you a light that you can walk with. In other words, Allah will give you the resources that you need to protect yourself. So, if we're unable to control our patterns, this is going to lead to loss. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَمَّا مَنْ طَغَى. And as for the one who transgresses, وَآثَرَ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا, and he prefers the life of this dunya, فَإِنَّ الْجَحِيمَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Then hellfire is going to be his abode. And if we learn to control our patterns, right, which is the secret to happiness, then we are going to be successful, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ. And whoever fears the standing before his Lord, وَنَهَى النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَى. And he restrains his soul, his nafs, from what it's inclining towards. فَإِنَّ الْجَنَّةَ هِيَ الْمَأْوَى. Then paradise is his abode. And now we're going to look at the power of belief. The power that this soul can emit into the field around us. The first thing to understand is that if you want to change the atom, you must change its energy. In physics, when you change the electrical field of an atom, that's called the Stark effect. And if you change the magnetic field of an atom, it's called the Zeeman effect. And so this is the two ways of changing the state of the atom. And when we look at the heart is the largest electrical organ in the body and the magnetic body. So the heart is about 100 times stronger than the brain electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain magnetically. So the heart is the organ which has the capacity to affect reality around us. And so what this needs us to understand is that the feelings of the heart is the language of the field. This is something, let's just discuss this for a moment. When we look at Eastern traditions, they say that human beings have thoughts which occur in the brain. And then they have emotions and moods which happen in your gut-brain system, as we discussed in one of the previous lessons, that serotonin, your hormone of happiness, 95% of it is produced in the stomach. But what they're saying is that feelings or beliefs, attention, conviction is emitted from the heart. So in order to affect the field, the feeling has to come from the heart. If it's happening just in the body and it's not felt from the heart, it has no effect on the field. You know, there's a video here, but I think I'm not going to play it because I think it's complicated, it's going to confuse people. So let me just pass it. What we're going to understand about this field is that the field is like a mirror. Whatever we emit into it, it returns to us. And we must understand that the field, we could call it the qadar of Allah, because the field belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we project love, hope, and positive emotions, this is what it returns. And this is what we said the last time, that if we have tawakkul, what we don't understand is that if the field is like a mirror and we project doubt into the field, then that becomes our reality. If we constantly living in negativity, this is what the field will return to us, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ana inda dhanni abdi bi. I am in the opinion of my servant. So if you think Allah can't protect you, then that is the reality you will bring about. This is the reality Allah will allow to come to you. If you think that Allah cannot bring about some kind of cure for you, then that is the reality that's going to come to you. Remember we said last week, is that often if we take medical aid, we say you can't live without it. And then maybe just then that brings about that reality. You become sick and then you need it. What we should do is say this is a necessity and then make tawbah to Allah for using it. Or you say in today's time it's not possible to live in this world without having this kind of contingency, and maybe that's something displeasing to Allah, and then that becomes your reality. But if you put your tawakkul in Allah, then this is the reality that the field will return to you. If you have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what the field will return to us. So if we live in fear, and this is very common for us in South Africa, we're living in fear. Today the rand was 13.30, and everybody that imports are in depression, right? But if we are saying Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakil, this is what the field will return to us. We need to get ourselves out of these negative patterns. And now this is the important thing I want to talk about belief, is that Great Britain, the guy you've seen in the videos, he said he went to a Tibetan monastery and he saw a monk praying. And he said to the monk, he said, tell me, when I see you praying, what's happening on the inside? And the monk said to him, he said, the feeling is the prayer. And the movement you see on the outside, it was designed to bring about the feeling. That's very important. Just understand that the feeling is the prayer and the movement is designed to bring about the feeling. Okay? And we know the Prophet ﷺ said that some of you pray and he said you get 1/10, 1/9, 1/8, 1/7. The Sahaba said, what is that? The Prophet ﷺ said some of you only get 1/10 of the reward of your prayer, 1/9, 1/8, according to your presence in the prayer. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said some of you pray and the prayer is flung down on his face like a dirty rag. And it says to Allah, Ya Allah, destroy him like he destroyed me. And what we're understanding from this is that Allah doesn't want the movement. Allah wants the feeling from the heart. We know we did the hadith from Bukhari of the lady who was praying tahajjud and fasting and giving charity, but she was harming people with her tongue, and the Prophet ﷺ said she's from the people of hellfire. So when we're making dhikr, when we're making Quran, reciting Quran, we have to bring these feelings from the inside. We find people sometimes they're sitting with the tasbih and they're talking the lightest things in the dunya. Or people are reading Quran and they're talking to people around them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking for a movement in the heart because this is what affects the quantum field. And when we pray and the prayer produces the right feeling in the heart, then this will be demonstrated in our actions. So if we want to see whether our prayers are accepted, then we should look at the ihsan in our actions. If we are speaking to people the way they should be spoken to, this is a sign that your prayer is in order. If you are dealing with people the way they should be dealt with, this is a sign that your prayer is accepted. If you have this change on the outside and it's not being reflected by your behavior, then it's worth nothing. You will be like that person that the Prophet ﷺ said, that woman's in the hellfire, even though she was praying tahajjud, she was fasting out of Ramadan, and she was giving charity. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, Al-birru husnul khuluq. Piety is beautiful character. If you're doing acts of obedience and your behavior is not correct, that's not piety. Something else is happening, and the field will not return anything positive to us. So the aim of salah, Allah says, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, that salah will safeguard us from evil and obscenity. So the purpose of salah and other acts of worship are to produce the feelings that will secure this feeling within us, and this will be good for us physically and spiritually. Mechanical worship is often the product of our patterns. You know, your patterns, what you do all the time. Some of us, we can go to the masjid, we can pray salah, we can come back home, and we haven't even connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what's happening from the subconscious, and there's no benefit in that. And part of the deception of the shaitan is to keep us at this superficial level. If we don't take a step back, analyze our patterns, and become more conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we may be disappointed when we reach our graves to find that there's nothing waiting for us there. So the change must be an internal one. Otherwise, the loss is for the one that makes only an outward change or fails to embrace the deen in its entirety. And Imam Shafi'i says all humans are dead except those who have knowledge. And all those who have knowledge are asleep, except those who do good deeds. And those who do good deeds are deceived, except those who are sincere. And those who are sincere are always in a state of worry. That means if you're in obedience, you're never going to concern yourself with the other person, what he's doing, whether he's a good Muslim or not a good Muslim. You will be concerned with your own state of heart. So the Sunnah is a technology that will bring balance and harmony to the self. It's a technology that will bring balance and harmony into society. It's a technology that will bring balance and harmony into the world and beyond. This is what the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is. And when we understand this, this is the only words that we can arrive at. Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana lihada. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who guided us towards this. وَمَا كُنَّا لِنَهْتَدِيَ لَوْلَا أَنْ هَدَانَ اللَّهُ. And we could never have found guidance if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not guided us. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His messenger. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. And so look at what the Rumi says. I'm not this hair and I'm not the skin. I'm the soul that lives within. This is what we need to start realizing. We're almost at the end. I'm going to take, inshallah, just 3 more minutes just to give you a few examples of this technology and how we can use it to improve our patterns. And these 3 things are dua, it's isti'adha, and bismillah. The first thing to understand now that we understand the field is that dua has to be made with conviction. Dua has to come from the heart. You have to have the conviction that it's going to be accepted. In China, they have a medicineless hospital where they cure people even with cancer just with chanting. You know? And they treat cancer, for example, they bring these practitioners that make like a dhikr. And what the practitioners are saying is they're saying, wa sa, which in Chinese means already gone. So they make this dhikr over the tumor, already gone, and they claim that that cures the patient. Now, that is up for discussion, but this is our legacy, that when we pray, we should pray like it's going to be accepted. We're going to look at the hadith after this that confirms this. The second thing is that our salah and our dhikr must be done with presence. You have to understand now it's for your own selves. It's for your own soul. We want to derive the health benefits from salah. We want to derive the spiritual benefits. We want to derive the light for the soul. And we want to derive the health, the chemistry for the body. So if you come and you do it haphazardly, you're harming yourself. All right? When we pray ritualistically, we nullify the benefits of salah. So you look at this hadith, the Prophet said, "Ud'u Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ajaba." You should pray to Allah and be sure He's going to answer you. In one hadith, the Prophet says, "Afdalul ibadah intidhar al-faraj." He says the most excellent form of worship is waiting for the opening. Meaning I'm praying, it's not coming, but I know it's going to come. So that time of waiting for the opening, the Prophet says Allah loves that the most. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُ مِنْ قَلْبٍ غَافِلٍ لَهٍ. Allah does not pay attention to one that makes dua with an unmindful and a heedless heart. Just think, all of us, how often it is we finish salah, we make our dua, we're asking Allah to give us barakah in our rizq, good health. We're not even connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we expect the field to return to us? And then the next thing is a'udhu billah. You know, we take it so lightly. A'udhu billah. But when we look at the words a'udhu billah, remember the shaitan is constantly trying to rob us of our balance and to corrupt our patterns. Awwath in the Arabic language refers to a piece of meat that's stuck to a bone. That means that the meat is so tightly sticking to the bone that you can't remove it. And this is what awwath for the Arabs meant. And this is what it should mean to us, that we seek a refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only and never remove ourselves from Him. The second thing, what the Arabs refer to as awwath, was a tree. If a tree grew over your house and your house had a tree over it, they call it awwath. Because in the desert you need the shade. And the tree, because there's no rain, no lightning, the tree will protect you from the sand. So it's like a valuable protection. And one of the things Allah says, فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ. When you understand the form of this word in the Arabic, فَاسْتَعِذْ, the sin and the ta in the word means you should ask Allah. Like we say, astaghfirullah. You say, Ya Allah, I'm asking you for your forgiveness. So Allah is saying we should ask for His refuge. But then Allah tells us in the Quran, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. Say, I'm taking the protection of Allah. So Allah says you should seek His refuge, but then when it comes to ta'udhu, Allah says, when you come to this, you just take the protection. That I'm leaving it there for you. You don't have to ask, you just take it. This is how powerful it is. And just to look at our soul, Ibn Sirin, Imam Zahiri, the sunnah is that when you finish salah, when the Prophet ﷺ used to finish, make salam, he used to say, A'udhu Billah. And they say that the wisdom of that is that in case your nafs becomes self-astonished that it prayed salah. Often people that pray salah in the masjid, and they always say, oh, the masjid fajr time is so empty. And it's almost like saying, yeah, I was at the mosque and you all not there. And so what happens? The shaitan withdrew your fajr before you even left the mosque. And so one of the ways to safeguard ourselves as soon as we make salam is to say, A'udhu Billah. And the Prophet ﷺ said two people were arguing with each other. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I know a statement. If the one who's experiencing the anger had to say it, it would leave him, and that's A'udhu Billah. So this is one of the things to help us with our patterns. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Oh Abu Dhar, take refuge with Allah from the Satans, from the devils amongst men and jinn. And Abu Dhar says, I said, are there Satans amongst men? And he replied, yes. So this is the power of A'udhu Billah. The next thing is the power of Bismillah. I printed out these things. I hope, inshallah, everyone will take, one each. I don't know if Faisal will just send it out after the lecture. This is a beautiful thing of the Bismillah. This is the last thing we're going to end with, that Ibn al-Qayyim wrote about the Bismillah. I want us to get an understanding of the power of Bismillah, which we take so lightly, and the excellence of this man, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored him. Just the thing about the Bismillah, when you say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it's an incomplete statement. Something has to follow. You say, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, and then what? And what the understanding is that any single thing that you should be doing should follow. So you say, in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I'm getting into my car. Or I'm going to cook a pot of food. Or I'm putting on my clothes. Or I'm starting my business. Or I'm going to gym. And so now you understand, if you smoke, you can't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So then it's something you can't do. So Bismillah is already like a mufti. It's telling you what you can and can't do. If you can't say Bismillah for a thing, it means you can't do it. So let's just look at what Ibn al-Qayyim says. He says, this name is not mentioned over something paltry, except that it becomes plentiful. Nor at the time of fear, except that it removes it. Nor at the time of hardship, except that it lifts it. Nor at the time of distress and worry, except that it alleviates it. Nor at the time of constraint, except that it liberates it. No weak creature depends upon it, except that it grants him strength. No one undergoing humiliation, except it grants him honor. No one who is poor, except that it leads him to richness. No one who is left alone, except that it grants him comfort. No one who is overcome, except that it aids him and supports him. No one in a state of dire need, except that it lifts his need. No one who is run astray, except that it draws him back. It is the name through which hardship is removed, through which blessings descend, through which supplications are answered, through which the foot does not slip, through which evil is repressed and good is promoted. It is the name through which the heavens and the earth stand, because of which the heavenly scripture descended. The messengers were sent, the legal laws legislated, the legal punishments established, and jihad legislated. Through this name is the creation divided into the felicitous and the wretched, and through it does the undeniable reality come to pass, and the final convulsion occur. Because of it are the scales erected, the path laid out, and the paradise and hell made ready. Through it is the Lord of the worlds worshipped and praised, and to establish its rights with the messengers sent. It is about it that the questions will be asked in the grave and on the day of resurrection. Because of it did the dispute arise, and to it one goes for judgment. Love and hate is based on it. Felicitous is one who has come to know it and establish its right. Wretched is one who is ignorant of it and leaves off its right. It is the core of the creation and the command, and through it to both stand and become firm, and to it to the end. Can we live our lives without Bismillah? وما علينا البلاغ. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.